Scuba Obsessed is a weekly podcast. We talk about all things scuba diving, from cool new gear, to places to dive, and scuba news. Scuba Obsessed episode. Oh my goodness.
547.
547 was recorded live August 25th, 2022. Welcome back to Scuba Obsessed. I'm Darren Gilson, coming to you from the southwest side of the great state of Michigan, where all I can say is give me more of this weather. Joining me this week is Mac, the dive mentor. How you doing today, Mac?
I'm doing very well. I'm glad to be here.
How is this? I mean, this is the weather I wish we had all year. Just keep it like this all year. 72 to 78 degrees, clear skies.
A little bit of rain, had to do the mowing a little bit, but collectively not bad.
Yeah. This is hard to beat. And I see we got Karen in chat room. Welcome, Karen. Glad to see that you're here. And so what do you say we just jump right on in?
Sounds like a plan.
The show notes. So first one we have up is something you always want to avoid as a fine. A scuba diver has been fined over $9,000 after swimming too close to killer whale pod. Scuba diver in British Columbia was fined a record of 12,000 Canadian dollars, which is 9,250 US, for approaching a pod of killer whales too closely. Gold, is that Gold? Would you say that? Gould was found to have violated Section 7 of the Marine Mammals Regulation Components of Canadian Fisheries Act. Judge Jeffrey Campbell imposed the biggest fine ever for violation of this nature in July. In southern British Columbia, vessels must maintain a minimum distance of 650 feet from killer whales. Vessels must maintain a distance of 1,300 feet in coastal waters between Campbell River and just north of Ucluelet. Swimming, diving, and interacting with marine mammals are all prohibited by Canadian marine mammal regulations. The orca pod that was involved in the incident has been visiting the Prince Rupert area for at least 10 years, according to Canada's DFO, to the point that warning signs have been placed to instruct boaters to stay far away. According to the report, there was evidence that Gould's dive boat repeatedly tried to move ahead to leapfrog the orca pod. Gould was also discovered to have twice entered the water close to killer whales while wearing full dive gear. The DFO issued a statement saying, "Watching whales and other marine mammals in their natural habitat gives Canadians an opportunity to better appreciate these wonderful species. However, when humans come too close, we risk disrupting and hurting them." So do you think that was too much of a fine? I mean, is it appropriate to fine people like that?
It was too much of a fine just listening to that, but by the same token, was that a private boater or was that a charter boat that actually took people out? Otherwise, how would he know the rules for that?
No, ignorance of the law is no excuse, at least here in the United States. I mean,
that's a scary thought when you say that.
Yeah,
that's their excuses, not knowing the law that has not applied to you generally.
Yeah. I mean, but that's common. That's what, you can't say I didn't know. You just say that doesn't matter. I mean, it's the rules there to protect them. My guess is, I mean, they didn't say that that this had happened before. But the behavior of the leapfrog is probably what did it. And I don't know. In the U.S., you get that fine, and then your attorney would immediately appeal. So it makes a big headline, and then later on, you get something a little bit less.
Maybe.
Yeah. Now, is there much of a risk with divers, to the diver, being near the orcas?
I wouldn't mess around with them personally.
No.
I mean, they're wild animals that that's their habitat.
Mhm.
So no, I probably wouldn't be, but I wouldn't be diving with sharks either, though. I'm a wimpy.
Yeah. There we go. So this is a record. What does the title say? Florida scuba diver spears new state record hogfish. Said had it been taken on a rod and reel, it would have beaten the world record hogfish by several pounds.
Wow. They have a picture. Okay. That's a pretty
There
good
he
size.
is.
I don't think that fit in my goldfish pond.
No. The fish bowl wouldn't quite hold it. But I mean, it's a pretty decent fish. The thing is, it depends on the species. I don't know how big they get, which maybe they'll say something in here. Joshua Somerville, 42, had been diving and spearing fish for a decade and a half. And on his day off from working as a dive master and boat captain at Panama City Diving Center, he did what some folks would expect. He went diving with a couple of buddies. Hey, why not? Somerville and his pals, Patrick Green and Ben Carpenter, were on Dive Center's 36-foot Newton boat called the Steel Slinger on August 2nd. They were 40 miles offshore Panama City Beach, home port for the crew. It was their first stop of the morning. It started to rain. That delayed their first drop of the day in the Gulf of Mexico. They were waiting to see if lightning and the storm would halt their dive. After 20 minutes or so, the storm and lightning passed. They redialed their gear to dive. They readied their gear to dive deep. As we got set to go overboard, a rainbow suddenly showed. Someone said, "Okay, let's get in the water and find our treasure." He remembered laughing. Wow. That is a beast in this photo. Look at that.
40 miles offshore is a long haul.
Yeah. It's interesting how, down there, they don't even think anything of it. 5 miles off in Lake Michigan is pretty big deal to me.
I get away from shoreline that I can't see it. You better have a good compass / GPS or both. And you better have the NOAA weather on your radio too.
Mm-hmm. He descended the scuba gear to about 100 feet, loaded his Ocean Rhino RX-5 spear gun that shoots stainless steel spear. The water was really clear. I looked down and saw a big hogfish. I was shocked to see him because usually we don't see that many hogfish off Panama City. They're more of an east coast near, I'm not going to say that name, or farther south in Florida, but there he was. I went towards him right off. That's a shot. There he's holding him, hanging down. That makes it look even bigger, doesn't it?
I imagine if you shoot that and he's on a leader, that guy could tow you around for a while if you didn't kill him.
Yeah. Yeah, big hogfish.
So I just wonder how quick he died.
Yep, he says about 2 feet from the ledge. Once Somerville got to the fish's level, it started to swim away. He pursued it, waiting for a good opportunity to shoot the fish. He almost took a shot, but waited for a better angle, raised the spear gun, and fired. He was about 10 feet away. I hit a good in the jaw just under the eye. He tried to go back under the ledge, but I got a hold of the spear shaft and pinned him to the bottom until I could put him on a stringer. So he's still going. Somerville continued his deep dive, shot a mangrove snapper, and then he returned to the surface. His buddies were amazed at the size of his hogfish. They had no idea of its weight and what the current Florida record was for the species until they got home, got within cell phone range of shore. I got a buddy on the phone, told him the fish was over 33 inches long, and he said, get him weighed at a certified scale because he could be a record.
Oh.
At Buddy Gandy's Seafood in Panama City, Somerville's hogfish weighed 24.2 pounds. It outstripped the recently set state record hogfish of 21.7 pounds taken by another spear fisherman last year. That record fish was speared in 120 feet of water, roughly 100 miles off Florida's Gulf Coast. Somerville's hogfish, which makes good table fare, measured 33 0.55 inches long with a girth of 25.9. So that's like almost a full yard.
I don't think I'm going to be 120 feet down looking for fish. I mean, you don't have a lot of time.
No, you don't. I mean, you'd have to be, maybe special mix. Yeah. And like you said, if he towed you away, that'd be a bad day.
Oh, yeah.
Has been certified by Florida Fish Commission as a new state record hogfish. Florida Marine records allow spear gun shot non-game fish species, such as hogfish, which are rarely caught on a line. The IG...
Non-game fish? What does that mean?
Well, I don't know specifically, but I'm going to guess, let's find out. I'm going to do a little bit of every... What is a Florida game fish? I don't know.
Just a pregnant pause where you cut it while you...
Yeah, no, I'm not going. Well, I'm trying to find it, and I'm not getting it. It says most... Okay, so here's what... Yeah, I don't know if I call these, but like they're saying like alligator gar, American shad, black crappie, largemouth bass, freshwater sunfish, striped bass, trophy catch, yellow perch. Those are freshwater. Saltwater. This is Florida Fish and Wildlife. Yeah, I don't know. The top 25 Florida game fish are tarpon is number one. In here, I'm going to have to share the article with you, Matt, because you'll like the photos. Tarpon, and then grow over 200 pounds. So that's a game fish. And you notice how only girls fish down in Florida? Snook is a game fish. And they're all wearing bikinis half the time. That's surprising.
Fish?
Yeah, the fish are wearing bikinis. Let's see, what's another one? Redfish.
Well, I can see why you went to that site right off the bat.
Well, it's getting the most hits for a reason. Karen in the chat room is saying non-game probably means no season and or no limit. Yeah, that could be. I mean, it's probably something like that. Spanish mackerel. Let's see. Speckled trout. Bluefish.
So it's definitely not trash fish.
No, permit. Didn't realize it's the name of a fish, but yeah, none of these. I'm too far out of my league to even know what any of these are. So let's see. What's the next article?
I still think it's interesting that at 120 feet, you're looking for fish.
Hey, people who like the fish, they don't care where they go. I mean, that's definitely a passion. I know people I have worked with for 20 years, and if they're not at work, they're out fishing. That's like they only work to go fish.
I know a couple of people who really, really are into fishing, period.
And the thing is, they're good at it too. I mean, like we'll do a fish fry for work, and we'll supply all the fish. So they're hitting their limit. Oh, Karen must have found something. She says, heard the article, game fish put up a fight and are yummy. I guess so.
I like the yummy part.
Yes. Now, on that, so lionfish are not considered game fish. I've heard they're yummy. We still haven't had anybody give us one.
Yeah. Or try it out and actually talk to us about it.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe what we need to do is find out when one of these tournaments are going on and have them call in. So, okay, let's see. What's the next one up? Dipworms. I don't think they're a game fish. Let's get that queued. We'll change it over. So,
Voracious?
Yes, it is voracious. I knew that's what it was, but I couldn't say it, man. I think it's nap time. A voracious ship. Ship. Yeah, here. Maybe I'm just dehydrated. Luckily, it's cropped off because I just spilled about half the drink on myself. This is almost like when we did the live podcast somewhere in Florida. I think I spilled on me. Voracious shipworms threaten what is believed to be the wreck of the Endeavour. Efforts to preserve the historic structure in a race against the termites of the sea, says marine biologist. After nearly 250 years at the bottom of the sea, the remains of the ship believed to be Captain James Cook's Endeavour may be at risk of destruction. Marine biologist who had seen the wreck firsthand says it's riddled with shipworms and gribbles, also known as termites of the sea, that are making a meal of it. The shipworms eat the inside of the wood and the gribbles eat the outside surface of the wood. Together, both of them basically consume a piece of wood very, very quickly, Ruben Shipway told As It Happens guest Susan Bonner. Shipworms are wood-eating clams that grow about 1.5 meters in length, according to Shipway, while gribbles are a small wood-eating crustacean about the size of an ant.
Oh.
So here they're talking about the Endeavour, and the Endeavour sailed the South Pacific between 1768 and 1771, became the first European to chart Australia's east coast and claim the land for Great Britain. The vessel is later part of a fleet of 13 ships British deliberately sunk during the Revolutionary War in 1778 off the coast of the U.S. In February, the Australian National Maritime Museum announced that the wreck off Rhode Island, U.S. had been positively identified as the Endeavour. Still questions linger about whether it's really the Endeavour, and now any work to confirm it might be threatened by vicarious insects. Boy, there's a photo only a mother could love.
Yeah.
Oh, Karen in the chat room saying she had some lionfish in Cozumel and it was very tasty. So, yeah. You know, it seems kind of odd that it would have made it 250 years and now in the last few years is when it's really threatened. Unless it was covered.
That's what I was curious to see if it was covered and what depth was it?
Yeah. Shipway, a lecturer at the University of Plymouth, was able to identify the species of shipworm during a dive earlier this month, and the damage that is caused is already considerable, he says. Only about 15% of the ship's original wooden structure remains. I'm really surprised it's that much. Thankfully, some of it remains buried under the sediment, which also makes sense. If the entire wreck was uncovered, they would be eating the whole thing. That's the reason why most wooden ships wrecks don't exist anymore. They've been eaten by these animals. He said sediment can shift, leaving the wood exposed. When that happens, animals can basically colonize the wood, and they can do their damage. They work fast, and warm water shipworms can consume a wreck in about 2 years. In cooler waters, it takes about 4. Says a fairly simple solution. He says keep the wreck covered. It requires constant monitoring, and you need to make sure that all the local fishermen know not to dredge over the area. And you need to check it after storms to make sure sediments haven't shifted. So it's a fairly easy fix, but it's also an expensive one. Shipway says if such an important part of history was on land, it would get all the funding necessary to protect and preserve it. But because it's underwater, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. In general, marine archaeology just does not get the same backing, despite the fact that it's so important. This is where you say, why is it important?
I was about to say, in perspective.
Yeah. He would like to see governments in the UK, Australia, and US work together to make sure what he calls one of the most important maritime archaeological and cultural heritage sites in the world is salvaged. This is one of the world's first scientific voyages. It was something, united 3 different continents, played a really important role in the battle for American independence. We can't preserve something like that. What can we preserve?
At what cost and what benefit?
Right. Wow.
I mean, who's going to see it? And it's on the bottom. You have all the history, a lot of photographs, and that's more than you got for most of the other items.
Yeah. Well, we've got a lot of ships that are above water. They couldn't get funding. I mean, the Olympia. I mean, what that one, when it stopped attracting big crowds, then it was like, we give it away to somebody.
Never an issue till they're either gone or almost totally gone. And then it's, oh my God, we should do something.
Yeah. I like anything else.
Not very proactive.
It's follow the money. And they didn't say how far this was out. And what are they hoping to discover?
Yeah.
So that's a zoomed in. So I think this is I'm not showing it. So this is a zoomed in photo. And I think that same piece is this one here. It's just looking, looking from the side. So, but interesting article. Honestly, I don't think you're going to get the money for it. I don't think there's enough interest. Here's another thing that sometimes doesn't get enough money. Mercy Hospital program supports divers in danger. Said their estimated 4 million people in the United States participate in recreational diving in the coast of southeast Florida from Palm Beach to the Keys. It's the busiest diving area in the world. A world-renowned program in Miami is helping scuba divers recover from decompression illness, which is a dangerous dive-related injury. Daniel Garrett is no novice to scuba diving. He'd been taking a plunge for nearly a decade. Then while out on a fishing trip with friends in the spring of 2021, he surfaced too quickly. We were taking pictures of fish. All this started burning. I couldn't hold the fish, so I knew something was wrong. Once in back of the marina, he was rushed to Mercy Hospital to be treated for decompression illness, result of buildup of nitrogen in the body during the ascent. The nitrogen is not released and can go anywhere from skin to joints to brain to spinal cord, said Dr. Ivan Montoya, director of the Mercy Hospital Hyperbaric and Wound Care Center. You ever see the movie The Princess Bride?
Yes.
I am Dr. Ivan Montoya. You killed my father. I'm sorry. That's where the hyperbaric chamber therapy comes in. It can decrease the nitrogen bubbles in the body that cause the damage. Montoya, who was headed the center since its inception in the late 1980s, said Garretti's case was one of the more serious cases he'd seen. He was paralyzed. He had some residual symptoms, but that he was able to recover a lot because we do have cases where they come in, and most of the time the reasons they don't improve is because they come in too late. He said the timing for seeing benefits from hyperbaric oxygen therapy depends on severity of the decompression injury, but we treat no matter what. You definitely see improvement with delayed treatment. Garrett, and I'm saying his name about 9 different ways, underwent intensive hyperbaric and physical therapy for 2 months and slowly recovered his mobility. Their therapy was really life-changing. He hasn't lost his love of the water. He said his scuba diving days are over. I'm happy to be able to walk, to be able to exercise, just to go about my day like I was before the accident. Along with the decompression illness, divers can also suffer damage to inner ear, sinuses, and lungs.
Well, he's lucky they had that there, and you always wonder if he'd gone earlier.
Yeah.
How much different that would have made.
Yep. Yeah, call Dan if you have any questions and unusual feelings. I mean, that's Divers Alert Network. You know, have your Dan membership.
When in doubt, you do something. I mean, at the least, you know, we dove last week on Havana. We had 4 boats out there.
Okay.
3 of the boats had O2, and we also had the AED out there and a rescue kit. Part of it is there are some older guys, but it's really good having that many boats, that many support people. That if you had an issue, pretty much we could have taken care of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So just get it treated. Also, when you're traveling, know where the hyperbaric center is. Because a lot of times people just don't know. And find out if it's actually open.
Yeah, that's why you're going to call Dan first, and they're going to help you find that chamber.
Yep.
And we've had, you know, people in our club who have utilized it. Talking about Bob years ago, saved his wife's life.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, they're a nice thing to have. And we haven't, do we know, because that was something that Rick was managing the chamber.
With him going, yes, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
There's going to be a follow-up, or if the new business is going to take over the responsibility for teaching the chamber operators and assisting in its use.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question you just brought up.
Yeah. And it's worth it. You know, for people who don't know, in Southwest Michigan, and this is a full size chamber. This is not like a lot of hospitals now have gone to single person, primary monolungs that are used for if you have carbon monoxide poisoning and some wound therapies, I think.
Green.
Yeah,
right.
Can be done in
therapy.
There. But you don't normally get the ones where you can get a few people in and a patient or do procedures. But the one in Kalamazoo is quite a large chamber. And Kalamazoo many times has tried to get rid of it, but I think because it's just an awkward size, there's really not much else they do with the spot. They wanted to tear it down at one point. But Rick I don't know if he can take responsibility for saving, but was instrumental in it still existing. And what you can do as divers is you can sign up and take rides. And I recommend it. I mean, that's what gave me the confidence to do some of the deeper dives, is knowing how I would respond in narcosis. So we went down. Did you do that dive with us, Mac, when we went?
I've done it years ago when they had special that go down to 165.
Yeah, because I think it was.
And, I think nowadays it's 120, 130.
Yeah, because Jim Kleeman, myself, Richard. I'm trying to remember who else went. There's maybe one or two.
I got the pictures.
Oh, you were there? Okay.
Yeah. We took the styrofoam head. We did the cup. We watched the cup become really dense when we took it out. Styrofoam head would shrink and it came back out. Then we did the balloons. It said down at the bottom, inflate it to the amount, and whoever it popped just as you hit the exit won. Do you remember that? You'd inflate the balloon, and whoever's blew last won the prize.
I don't remember that one really, but I remember Richard singing "Yellow Brick Road."
Well, we did all the testing before we went in.
Yeah.
And we did the same thing, the dexterity and the writing, the math. It's a very good exercise.
Yeah.
I mean, I was fortunate, got to go to a dive school, years ago when we went down to 210 feet. And let me tell you, there's a big difference between 120, 160, and 210.
I bet. Yeah, because we did the deep, which was the one, was it 155 or something about there. But part of it was just having enough air, I think is what he said, because he has to charge up all those tanks so they can get the chamber up to pressure. Yeah, and then Karen says, I don't think Bronson Chamber is certified for use anymore. Last I heard it had been shut down because it's getting old and risky to use. Because it was even old then. Because the thing is, they have to run a test on it. And I'm sure insurance is going out now. So is that Bronson there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's something we should check out. See if that's still there. Because they're not making more of them. Other than that, like, 'cause now don't commercial divers, Mac, have to have a chamber?
Yeah, depending on the type of dive you're doing, a lot of them have the portables.
Yeah.
They'll put it on a barge so it's on site when you're diving.
Yeah. So that's kind of
And
the...
you really want to have that, let me tell you.
Yeah. Well, time matters. And you're actually probably in situations where it can be quite... But yeah, I know that, you know, there at Kalamazoo, they kept looking at that one for a time. So we'll find out. We'll do a little bit of looking up. And then the last article we have is, let's take a submarine to the bottom of the Great Lakes. I actually had this one queued for last week. And it says, you too can sink down to the watery grave depths. When the waves of Lake Huron closed over my head as I sank to the bottom of the Great Lakes, I admit I was a little panicky. I definitely thought about drowning. After all, I had nearly drowned 3 times in my life on a gurgly mouthful of water. Despite kicking and fighting to swim back to safety, I could feel the water overtaking me, bubbling over my head as I sank down. The pool was choking me, I was suffocating, and the fear of death was right in my face. As you can probably guess, I was eventually saved. Someone, you wrote this. Someone noticed and pulled me out of the pool, and that relief was enormous. But here I was again as an adult watching sediment from the bottom of the lake swirl up around me. This time I wasn't drowning. This time I was perfectly safe. This time I was in a submarine. My small group and I were passengers on one of Viking Cruises' newest itineraries, the Great Lake Explorer. The expedition allows guests in the Viking Octantis ship to see one of the Great Lakes from the other side of the surface, though guests can participate in science research activities like microplastic research, bird watching, and weather balloon launches. It's also really cool to be able to dive in a submarine, whether you're overcoming your own childhood experiences or your adventure at heart. Here's what you know about going on a submarine expedition to Great Lakes. There you go.
Well, I've seen the new ventures. I did not know that included a submersible.
Yeah. I didn't either. Because I might have to talk my wife into, because the thing about a submersible is we'll get into it. They're, of course, they're yellow submarines. You can guess their names. You pick John, Paul, George, Ringo. You're absolutely right. The Beetles can go down about 1,000 feet. Stay underwater for 8 hours. Each side of the submarine has 3 very comfortable seats for passengers, surrounded by glass domes that allow optimal viewing and dive at the dive site. It's a small space. You can't stand up straight, but you can hardly tell once you're in the water. The seat platform swivel. You can look out over the lake floor instead of staring at the pilot and the other passengers. Submarines are equipped with lights, cameras, some handy claws to pick up anything valuable the pilot sees in the lake bed. They're typically used for research vessels to take information back to Octantis science program, which works in collaboration with NOAA. They eventually plan to install instruments at the bottom of the submersible, get more detailed about the water of the lakes and lake bed. So where is this again? I'm just having a hard time understanding.
So part of the Viking.
So Viking Cruises. So these are the cruise ships, like the river cruises or the Great Lakes. And so the Viking ships have these submersibles?
Well, that one obviously does.
Wow.
Did you see the pictures of the ships here on the Great Lakes? It was in one of the papers a couple of weeks ago. It's quite interesting. Because they have a tour that comes in all through the St. Lawrence, through all the lakes, and then back out.
Wow.
And it is a little salty, but still.
Yeah, some of the smaller ships, they have a little bit less services than the large ones. You go to Florida Carnival and those sorts. Those are much larger. But for this, oh, man. Because the one thing is like when I describe it to my wife, Even if you take a GoPro down, it's not the same as if you're in this.
Yeah.
I wish I showed a profile of it. I want to see how many people fit in this. Is this just a two-person? So it's a pilot and you?
I thought he said 3 people plus the pilot.
There's one. There's the pilot. He's in the middle, and there's another person. Oh, maybe there's 2 here. It must be air, because the volume, it looks like they could handle 5. If you want to take a submarine dive into Great Lakes yourself, you have to be a passenger on the Viking Octantis or sister ship Viking Polaris. As of the writing, no other companies offer passenger submarine trips into the Great Lakes, especially not a military-grade exploration submarine, which is worth $6 million each. The Great Lakes Expedition itinerary starts at $6,500 and can be booked in a... Oh, man. You know, if somebody just wants to... So that's 65, and that's probably per person. So 13,000 for my wife and I. And I wonder how long that is. Okay, now I got it.
Well, I would imagine that's part of the boat trip.
Well, I'm guessing
I don't
like
think it's just for the dive.
No, but I think you do the boat trip, and then that's you probably have to pay. I'm doing a little Google search, and here's an ad. Google gets a little money because I clicked on the ad. Play a little Jeopardy music there. That's a pretty decent sized vessel.
Yes, it is.
378 guests. Crew.
It'll get through the locks.
Look at the crew. The crew almost is almost the number of guests. 665 feet. That is a long boat for the Great Lakes. That'd make a nice dive boat, Mac.
You think?
Yeah, billion dollars.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you got to win when they got the 100 million or more in the lottery. You need to win that.
How about the billion?
Yeah, the billion would be what you need. Beam 77 feet, class polar class 6. It was built in 2022, so that's. Is it? They're saying 2022. Has it been sitting around?
No, that's brand new. 2022 is when it was built.
That doesn't make any sense. Who
it's a new boat,
right? But who during the pandemic is building a cruise ship? I mean, they did. I'm glad they did. But 2022, yeah. Interactive deck plan. So there's the. Wow. It's pricey, but man, I want to go. Do I dare click on the...
Well, I'll let you. I think it'll be good. You can do a broadcast while on board.
Yeah. There you go. Can you believe that? Look at that. Are you seeing that?
Yeah.
There's some, man. Yeah, for those listening in the podcast, you're missing. This is VikingCruises.com. And they're not sponsoring us. They should. How about the submarine? Here's the shot of the submarine. Seats 1, 2, 3. Wow. This is insane. And I honestly believe that is an oxygen cylinder.
Probably.
Wow. So that's what it is. There's the 3 seats. So you're kind of in the back of the dome. Wow. Yeah, I've described what we're seeing. You know, they showed 3 seats, kind of like a almost theater seats. Now they're showing screens which have almost like what you would see in a plane. You know, pitch and roll and pressure depth gauge. At this point, this screen on surface, it's saying it's 1 foot. Man, this is too cool.
Yeah. Got to start somewhere. 1 foot's good.
Yeah, 1 foot to 2 foot to 100 feet. But I wonder if you could, like, say, because think of those wrecks that we've recently discovered out in Lake Michigan. Yeah, Karen says it's probably been under construction for 10 years. I'm thinking so. That was a big boat. 8 days, Milwaukee to Toronto is $6,000. 13-day cruise is $9,000. I'm pretty sure that would be per person. Wow, that's enough. Oh, I am just in the wrong tax bracket for some of this stuff. So that does it for Scuba News, just to make you envious and want something that you don't currently have.
Well, if you wanted $1 billion plus, you could do that.
Yeah. Man. I'm still staring at it. It's even though I'm not showing it on the screen, I'm watching it go round and round. Could I take a pay cut and work on that? It's yeah. Hopefully this is where I hope there's a lot of rich people who can help pay that off. Wow, Viking.
Build it, they will come.
Yeah, 15 days Toronto to Duluth is 13,000. But I want to see some of the wrecks that, you know, that are a little too deep for me to want to go to. I'm looking there. I see a tank. Is that helium? That wouldn't be. See that tank there? I can't see what that says. Hehne. I'm just daydreaming. Okay. Back to reality. Speaking of reality, I understand we had some diving this last week go on.
Yeah, we had a Thankful Tuesday dive. We had it on the Havana. Alternate was going to be if the weather blew out, we dived north or south pier, but the weather cooperated. So we had 3 boats on the tether, meaning on the buoy for the wreck. Jim was off the wreck and buoyed. So we had 4 boats out there, and 12 or 13 people dove. And I think we had 1 bubble watcher. So everybody went down, came up, and that was always a plus. And then afterwards, of course, went out to the local brewery and told lies about your dive.
Yeah, the lies? What kind of lies?
Okay, maybe embellishments.
Embellishments like the gold bars that you left behind, or?
Well, I think Kevin actually saw part of the rudder, which we have not seen in 30 years plus.
Havana?
Yes.
Oh.
So I went down after a couple of the guys went first, and they had the reel lines out, so I just followed the reel lines once they went down, got to the wreck, put the reels out, because Viz was maybe 10 feet-ish. My GoPro quit working as soon as I hit the water. Pissed me off. Because I had, you go down, take some time, slow, take the shots, got back, it sucked. But it's certain sections are uncovered. You can tell because it's no zebras. Part of the line going down, it's like a 1-inch line, enough zebras to make it 2.5 inch. So you got a lot of muscle still on the lines going down. It was 52 degrees. We had a couple of people who were warm water divers who thought it was cold. And a good number of people did went dry. I went wet, my leaky suit. But my feet were getting a little chilly towards the end, but that's about it. But it was a good dive.
Yeah.
Everybody had a lot of fun.
Excellent. Now you said warm water divers. What type of water were they used to diving in then?
Florida and Caribbean.
Now, were they from the area, or they just happened to be passing through?
Coming up, they're now living up here. But one of the guys in the club, I think he's been down Cayman and stuff 3 times this freaking year. So he does a little traveling. He likes to have his fun.
Yeah.
But he says, I like the warm water better.
Well, has he?
Most of visibility.
Has he? I mean, what kind of gear? Is he starting to gear up to be warm, or is he just a warm water diver who suffers the few times he goes?
Well, he was with us when we first got him into the river diving.
Okay.
And you can wear almost anything in that.
Yeah, when you get July and August in the river.
Right. When it gets past October, it starts to get a little chilly for the wetsuit if you're going to be down there an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So he's dove the river with us a couple of times. Diamond Lake many times. So he's that kind of diver. During the winter, when it gets cold up here, he goes down south, which is great if you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm always glad to have new divers in the area and they get out into the water. So great for him.
Yep.
Glad they're here.
It was a good time. It was a good dive. We got, let's see here. Labor Day will be the 5th. And that'll be a high noon dive. That's a Saturday.
Now, normally our Labor Day is when we go up north to Sheboygan. So everybody's kind of already done that.
Yep. And Jim went for like almost 2 weeks this time.
Yeah. Yeah. And Karen was up there and some others. So.
Yep.
Yep.
But they wanted to go when all the stores were open. So if they had the ladies and the wives went with them or whomever, there's more opportunities for them to do something.
Now,
the guys are diving.
I liked when we went, like the weekend after Labor Day, the stores were still there. I enjoyed it. We went one day in there for about half a time. And I always thought they were still open, but then I heard that the season actually prices go down like the week before Labor Day. But yeah, I can't say I don't have input because I haven't been in so long. I need to try and figure out how I can get back up there.
Well, all the places we used to stay closed down in Sheboygan.
Oh, they're not there anymore?
Gone by the wayside. No, we had Bees has been done for years. The Birch House, I think that was what it is.
Yeah.
The German place we stayed, that's gone.
Wow.
So a lot of the places we stayed at a lot are not it. They're not there.
Yeah, Karen said we started going earlier for better weather, less blow-off days, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
A little warmer.
Yeah, a little warmer. Yeah.
And some people did go to Duncan Bay. They trailered down. So some of the younger people, there are some young teens just diving, had a chance to do some wreck diving on, the Chief, it's a robo wreck, very shallow. And then the Jenny Lynn, which is 25 feet. That wreck there, which is intact.
Yeah.
So they had some shipwreck diving experience under their belt now.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think I may try this next year now that I am primarily working from home, is maybe I'll do nomad stuff, which is kind of where people like move around and then they just, it's like wherever they are, you work a normal work schedule. It's just that when you're done working, you're in a different location than your home.
Yeah.
So maybe I could go and figure out a way of doing that, mount the satellite dish on the top of on top of an RV and just plan on doing a dive every day. Yeah, Yeah, it says Captain Jen does diving charters out of Sheboygan now. Yeah, Sheboygan had a lot of turnover in diving charters. Like the dive shop up there had closed. So is there a new dive shop up there?
Not that I know of.
It says Birch House is used for guys monitoring Lake 5 now. Not sure what that means. Yeah, maybe that's how I got to do. I need to experiment with that now. Maybe see if I could financially justify maybe a 1 or 2 month tour. Because the one thing I want to do, and I haven't really talked about it much in the show, is that my next goal for the podcast is I want to live stream dives. So what I want to do is, as we're diving, it would be live streamed so you could dive with us. So I could see 1 or 2 guys on the boat kind of narrating what's going on, a couple guys in the down below with a camera that would be tethered to the boat. And then, the people listening to the stream could be asking, saying, hey, what's that over there? Take a look, so you'd have people actually diving in real time with us. That's my goal, but I've got a lot of work to do to make that happen. I need to come up with camera gear that's tethered and has, it is tethered, has a fiber link up to the boat. So we got live video and to communicate with the divers. That's the other part, comms down to the divers.
Well, the comms part is never an issue because there's enough of that there at the dive shop even.
Yeah. Well, everything right now is possible. In the last 2 years, it's really become possible. So probably what I'll do is my goal is that in the spring and maybe even an ice dive, we play around with it. And then from that point on, we would be able to go out in the lake. So I think it would be interesting for people to see what does a day going out to a wreck. Like say we dive, Ann Arbor 5 or the Havana, like you just did last weekend. Take people out, let them, you start to stream as we're, loading the boat in the, in the marina before we go to the boat ramp, and they get to go with us all the way. I mean, it'd be a ridiculously long stream. It could be 4 or 5 hours, and then we could, do an edited version later on. But I think that
the closest we've come to that as a club was in the 80s, back when we were having good freezes on Pawpaw.
Yep.
They already had ice festivals every year. We participated in that. People would come out and watch us dive. And we'd make 3 holes. So one year we put a tent over one hole. We had a separate one for the cameraman and then the diver hole. And we actually went down with a video, or live video, right up to the monitor in an enclosed tent. So people could come and watch us from the surface, then go into tent and see us underwater, and everybody would geek and say, hi, Mom.
Yeah.
On the television.
Yeah.
That's the closest we've come.
But kind of like that, but just to let people see and experience, because some people never going to dive. Some may be out of state and would like to dive, but it's just social. I mean, I think, we've got social media, we got Facebook, we got all these TikTok and the other websites. You really want to bring people together, have them interact, and then, feel like they're involved. Maybe that's what tips them over the edge to try scuba diving. Or maybe they don't, but they get to see it. Jacques Cousteau said, you save what you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the same thing. If you get to see it, it's a much different experience. And I think that's kind of where things are going. So kind of in the videos and the podcasts we're doing, you've got, what we've traditionally done is this, which is the podcast we've been doing now for over 12, 13 years. is not what we ever set out to do, and it's not what we're going to end up doing. It's just what we've done while we validated technology. You know, we started out audio, we've moved to video. We knew video was the way to go. And there's other things that we need to do. We need to get, you know, better connections, better content, and then get into topic-based content. And yeah, this is just the way that we had to, you know, what other way can you do a podcast in Michigan on scuba diving that's 52 weeks a year? The format we have is one of the few ways you can do it, but we're going to expand out and do some of the other things. And technology is now it's just a matter of me spending the money. And you can't see here. Maybe I should set up the other camera and you can see, but you know, I'm looking at about 9 video screens right now. So I'm kind of getting where I'm comfortable with that. And then my next thing is making a portable rig, which there are some AV companies that have really started coming out with some nice gear. This is stuff that wasn't popular. I mean, we could potentially do things that TV and movie networks couldn't do with $10 million 10 years ago. I mean, that's how much things have changed. So that's what I'm working on. So a lot of this is to keep us practiced, well greased, hopefully keep people entertained, add some value. But the point is really to bring this technology forward to where we can really make it a community involvement. And I'd like to come up with like a kit or a set of stuff and say, hey, you want to do this and you're in Cozumel or you're in the Red Sea or you're in Australia, here's the stuff you buy and you can do it. But you know, a lot of times it's not just having the stuff to buy, but it's the time to set it up and configure it. So a little bit off my soapbox, but that's really where I want to head. And I just feel like I'm running out of time. I mean, 12 years, that's you know, what's the average lifespan? And we've spent 12 years working on perfecting this. So yeah, but the journey's half the fun. So any dives scheduled for this next week?
I don't know what's going on for the 30th, since that is part of the big weekend.
30th.
Like I said, the 5th is the only one I've got planned.
Yeah.
Well, the next Tuesday dive is the 30th. And I haven't seen anything posted for that one yet. If the weather's good, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we went out and hit the down there in Michigan City and hit the Wheeler.
Oh, please tell me when you guys are going to do that. I would like to sneak on a ride for the Wheeler. Because I am within, gosh, so we talked a little bit about this before the podcast, but part of what's really, I don't say mess things up, but I'm the head coach for a high school robotics team, and sustainability, getting the program, because the only reason I took it on is my son, it was his junior year, and the coaches, they were going through a coach every year and a half, and I wanted to have something. And the team was very successful. And so I wanted it to be sustainable. So I've been working with that program, and, you know, once you get in, you know, like with the podcast, you got to keep making it better and better and better. And that's what we're doing. And we just, this year had, the school did a major expansion. They added an athletic center, performing arts center. So the band room got vacated and we've moved robotics into it. So we've got, you know, 18-foot ceilings. We got room for a little bit over a half a practice field, and we're in the school. So bringing STEM to the students, because when you think about it, and here's me on my robotic soapbox, is when somebody's like Mac, before we were talking about football, how many of the people on the Lakeshore team are going to be pro players?
None, probably.
Yeah.
Even though there is one from Lakeshore on the Alabama team this year.
Yeah.
And is expected to do big things.
Yeah. And I know a few who've gone to college. You know, I've this last week I talked to a guy who, he's a few years behind me in high school, and he went to college, you know, did really well, He did a walk-on with the Bears, made it through the preseason, but he didn't get picked up. And that's as close as Bering Springs Schools has ever had to a pro player. But with robotics, it's one of those programs, STEM education, every student can go pro. My son, in the next 2 or 3 years, will out-earn me with a STEM education. He went through robotics program, he went through college. He worked for Textron, who makes Cessnas. He's now working for Lockheed Martin. SpaceX is hounding him. They want him to come work for him. He's on his 3rd round of interviews. I hear there's 6. So it's a great career. So that's what we're trying to do for the students in the public schools, is to get them that STEM education or get them interested. You just need to know about it. All the, JR Automation, they make assembly lines. Eagle Technology makes assembly lines. So, we talk about robotics. Somebody's got to build the robots. Somebody's got to maintain the robots. Somebody's got to build the lines that build robots. So you can't beat it. I mean, growing up, I did computers and technology, which have done me very well. But, right now in the U.S., baby boomers, the average number of students, I don't know if you know this, Mac, was probably about 3? Kids. The baby boomers had. Right now in the U.S., a couple, the average is just over 1. You can't sustain a population with that. Or you've got to figure out something to do. You got to have more kids, or you're going to need to automate, and that's where we are in the U.S. So I'll get off my soapbox. So Karen says line 5 is a pipeline off the straits. So that makes sense. Oh, and then we were talking about, you could do that off my boat easy. I have a mobile hotspot that works off the cell signal. Well, you've got the hotspot, Karen. I've got the Starlink satellite dish. That's what I'm doing. I want to try and torture that. So about the time we get this all put together, we'll have fiber here at the house. I'll have the satellite dish waiting for a boat to go on. This last week I had 150 megabytes down, 20 up, more than enough. That's what we're podcasting on now. We're streaming on YouTube. So, yep. Aaron, we'll take you up on that. He says anytime you want to do a test run, give her a holler. Insta360, 2 times in the camera control for my cell phone. Loses connection after a couple feet down. Yeah, it takes video in 360. And that's the other thing, is if you record in 360. So, yeah, these are all the technological things. So what I'm envisioning is that we'd have a boat. Somebody would be on the boat. We would have, I'm thinking 2 divers to get started with. They'd each have like a 360 camera. Wouldn't have to be 360, but could be. And that, because the nice thing about 360, if people haven't used it, and we'd probably have to do dual streams with 360, is that if you're watching a video that's streamed in 360, you can scroll and see, like the diver, he's holding this camera out. He's looking, or he or she is looking forward, but people watching the stream could look at the backside of the camera. They could see what's around. So I just think this is some of the best way to document the wrecks. And also as another project, I would like to have a project where we go and in detail photograph the wrecks. So I've got different designs of rigs I've been working on with some LiDAR and stuff, where you could have a couple divers, you'd live stream, and then the end result, we'd have a 3D image of the wreck in that state. And if you dive that wreck multiple times a year, we could document what changes. Where did sand move? What boards are exposed? And over time, you could get some nice photos. So, yeah, I'm with you, Karen. That all sounds good. And she says she'd love to take her boat down for the wheeler. I need that's exciting. I need to, and I'm seeing some weekends. In fact, this weekend I'm kind of clearing up, but now I haven't mowed my lawn since July, so it's pretty bad.
Let the horses out. You need some goats.
I've got goats. I got 2 goats. You know what the goats eat? The goats eat the peppers and the tomatoes. They don't eat the grass. They're in a pasture with grass. They're not even eating it. I thought goats ate everything. I'm
I did too.
I'm
Yeah, maybe you need sheep.
that's what I'm
Maybe sheep
thinking.
is what you
I'm
need.
thinking sheep might be what we need. I better not tell my wife or we'll have sheep tomorrow. Got too many. Photogrammetry is cool. I played around with that, Karen. I took some video we shot of, I think it was Max Rec, and ran it through there. And it didn't work. I mean, it kind of did, but it didn't. But Ken Merriman is doing a lot with that. Yeah. Microsoft had a free website. I think it might not be free or available anymore, but you could take photos. And so above water, you could go to a monument, or like say in St. Joe, there's a cannon there and a bluff. And if you took enough photos of the cannon from different angles, you submitted the photos to the software and it would stitch them together and you had a 3D model of it. So that's all currently possible. And then part of it is I need to figure out how to get Scuba Obsessed together, get some of these people involved and let them run with it. Because, you know, there's a limit to what one person can, or a couple people or 3 people can do. Weather Saturday is looking really promising for getting out. Gosh, I don't even know my gear is. That's how bad it is. My basement is such a disaster. My gear is somewhere in that basement.
Take a magnet.
Like a magnet? My aluminum tanks don't work on the magnet. Must be defective. Well, and that's the thing is, all my tanks are out of Viz. So they all need to be Viz'd. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. This is first word problems, me whining. But, gosh, yeah. And then tomorrow's Friday. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Or am I the horse with the carrot on a stick running on a treadmill? Is that what I'm doing? I believe I'm going to get there and I never quite do. Borrow your nephew's gear. Yeah. Yeah, I've got gear. I can do those wrecks with my gear. It's only a small leak in my inflator valve.
Yeah, it's only 20 feet.
Is it 20 feet for the wheeler?
Yep, 22 feet. It hit bottom coming in.
I could almost snorkel
down during the ice.
I could almost snorkel that.
Just about.
Just about.
Shouldn't be much of a thermocline.
Yeah. Did I tell you my doctors put me on this ridiculous diet? I'm ready to chew my arm off.
Well, is it working?
Yeah, of course it is. They always work when you do them right.
Well, if you chew your arm off, that'll help too. That'll reduce some weight.
Well, it'll reduce weight. But I'm pretty sure my arm is high in calories, so
Well, if you do the arm that you're using to feed your face, then you solve that problem.
But I do robots. I would just make a synthetic arm that would feed me, or I would just do it down a nice 5 mil wetsuit. Now I know where my dry suit is. I really honestly I know where my gear is down there. It just needs to be put together. But the problem is people don't realize that messy people can be perfectionists. That's sometimes why they're messy. And that's what it is. It's going down to get my gear. I would not come up from the basement for 4 months. Yeah. Yeah, because I don't know if you can see here if I move away from here, but my son's bed is kind of like that mound back there. And like as I'm working and a process is running, I'm compiling or submitting something, I will sometimes go and move stuff. So I moved quite a bit downstairs. I actually moved today. I moved 4 computer monitors downstairs that I don't need because right now I'm looking, I've got 4 here. There's a tablet, there's a monitor, there's a monitor, there's a monitor. Yeah, I'm flooding in technology. So thank you for the offer. I just need to get my stuff together.
Well, what you're basically telling me then is the governmental services and all those alphabet intelligence agencies have you pretty much locked in.
Yes. Is that who's doing it? That they're convincing me I need to go and clean this stuff up?
Well, no, they're just monitoring. You got so much stuff. They said, with all this gear he's got, he must be doing something.
Yeah.
You need to watch him.
Yeah. Well, that's a danger. It's like, and like with the robotics area, you know, we're really organized and clean, but saving something, you know, because you're frugal and you save items, that really works, that can work against you. If you don't have a plan for it, like, I know, like, we've got some old CNCs from like the early 80s. And somebody bought them for us. They spent thousands of dollars on them. They donated them to the team. But we couldn't get the software. We couldn't get, you know, they were missing pieces of the equipment. And, you know, the hours we spent on researching on them, finding them. And now we got to dispose of them because we just like, it doesn't make any sense. So, and life is short. You've only got so many heartbeats in a lifetime. Yeah, you got to do something, you know. Very few people get to the end of their life going, you know, I wish I worked more.
That's exactly right.
So have some fun. Yeah, Karen says, I feel that my basement is full of Doom boxes. Now, is Doom boxes meaning the video game Doom? Or is it there's like boxes you got to go through? So, okay, Mac, well, we've been delaying it. You got anything you want to plug before we get on out of here?
Nope, we'll call it quits for this one.
Okay, we missed the safety story, but let's see, what are we approaching time-wise?
11:30.
Yeah. We've been recording an hour and 16 minutes is probably about an hour and 5. So, not terrible, but are you ready for that time of the show?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So these I have not previewed. I've just got them in a list. Call Uncle when you've had too many. And we're going to go and run through them. No boxes I threw stuff in to go through later. Oh, gosh. Doom boxes. I think we should name them, was it Fat Boy or Little Boy or something? Because, I mean, they're not only Doom boxes, they're atomic. So
Fat Man and Little Boy.
Fat Man and Little Boy. Did you hear they arrested the devil? Yeah, they got him on possession. What did one DNA?
That's good.
Yeah. So what did one DNA say to the other? Do these genes make me look fat?
That's not too bad either.
My IQ test came back. They were negative. What do you get when you cross a polar bear with a seal? A polar bear. Why can't you trust an atom? Because they literally make up everything. Why was 6 afraid of 7? Because 7, 8, 9. Oh, that's an old one. What do you call a hippie's wife? What's that, Mac?
I was going to say one more.
Okay. What do you call a hippie's wife? Mississippi? And then what is the difference between an outlaw and an in-law? Outlaws are wanted. So there you go. Before we get in too much trouble. Until next time, go out there and get wet.
And stay safe.